Mercedes-Benz India recently launched their flagship EV, the EQS, which had everything under the sun that you would want from a car, while still being relatively friendlier to the environment. But that car wasn't the most practical of all options that you had in India, and that's why we have the Mercedes-Benz EQE, which is exactly going to fill those pitfalls of EQS. And what better place than the lap of nature, Gulmarg, to evaluate this car. So talking about the front design of the EQE, I'm not a big fan of this design exactly because I feel the competition offers slightly more futuristic designs. This is very similar to the flagship EQS, and for some reason this lacks the big bite that the other competition offers. But interestingly, Mercedes has loaded this car with all the tech possible. You have 2.6 million pixels on these headlights, which are going to light up the road like a football field. Not just that, they're going to help the oncoming traffic. The intensity of these headlights are going to decrease so that it does not bother the oncoming traffic right there. No matter what you do, you cannot practically open the bonnet of this particular car. But how do you fill the washer liquid? Press this and put the water here. Pretty cool. You get a 360-degree camera on the ORVMs, but what's interesting is there is something called as geotagging. For example, if I park this car in my garage every single day, and if I go to my garage and switch on the geotagging of it, the next time I go to my garage, the camera is going to switch on automatically. This is so helpful and very technologically advanced. So all four handles are flush type door handles, and in fact, as you approach the car, the door handles are going to open provided you have the key. The car offers a ground clearance of 156 millimeters, and thankfully you get an air suspension where you can adjust the height of the car based on the terrain, which is going to be very helpful in Indian conditions. And not just that, you get 45 profile tires, which also means that they're going to be relatively nicer and kinder to you in terms of driving them on bad roads, and they are 20-inch. 4 disc brakes is of course expected for a car of this price bracket, and I think Mercedes-Benz has worked slightly more on ensuring that the alloys are aerodynamically efficient so that you get every single kilometer extra of range. Connected rear lights is the thing right now, and Mercedes-Benz hasn't been left behind in that race. Now this is the 500 variant, which is the top spec of this particular car worldwide. Now Mercedes-Benz interestingly said in the launch that they purposefully bought this car because they want to give the premium offering to the Indian consumers. They do not want to cut down on that experience by offering lesser range, lesser features. So Mercedes ne bola ki either 0 or 1, there is no in between, and that's why you have the top spec car. Just flip this Mercedes-Benz logo like this to open the boot, which is electrically openable. You get 520 liters of boot space. You can see the practical boot test here with loads and loads of cargo right here. Interestingly, you also get a nice cover so that you don't want outsiders to peep what exactly is going on in this particular boot. Just tap this to close the boot again. I have a 400 volt lithium ion battery pack which is placed below the car, just like we've seen most of the EVs, so that it improves the center of gravity, because the battery pack is so heavy, it helps in better handling of the EVs around the corners. And now talking about the charging options, of course, the DC charging is very quick. Matlab 10 to 80% charge hota tha sirf 32 minutes mein, which is just about time that you take for a breakfast in McDonald's. And then this charger is very interesting because you can use Tesla's supercharger to charge this particular car whenever Tesla comes in India, say around 2025 or 2026. And using the normal charger will take you about 11 hours to charge this car completely from 0 to 100%. So the interiors of this car feel very similar to the EQS, primarily because the exact same hyperscreen of EQS, the 56-inch, you heard that right, 56 inch of screen is placed in this particular car, which is huge. The real estate is huge and has tons and tons of functions. Talking about the steering wheel, it's light beige in color. The instrument cluster can be changed for various designs and other options which you have seen in other Mercedes-Benz cars. I won't get into the details. You have paddle shifters which are going to be helpful in regeneration, and not exactly the way the paddle shifters work on an IC engine car. So quickly summarizing the main functions of this screen, you have something called as off-road mode, where you can see the car's inclination, declination. You can also see what is under the bonnet so that it helps you navigate in tight off-road conditions, especially where you can spot stones and whatnot. And various comfort creatures are there. There are different stages for the seat ventilation and heating, and many other things are there, including wireless chargers, which is going to be a big boon for your convenience. You have something called as eco charging, which is pretty interesting. Here kya hota hai ki, see, if you deactivate this and if you activate this, you can see that the max is reduced to 80%, which means that the maximum charge that the battery can hold is just 80% and not 100% to its capacity, which also means that over a period of time this is going to improve the battery life, as the charging cycles are going to reduce drastically with this, which is a very thoughtful move by Mercedes-Benz. So sometimes what happens when you're road tripping, especially if you want to consume every single kilometer which is very important in terms of range, and that's why you have something called as range mode, jahan pe if you press few functions, so say if I press the interior restrict function, the range is going to be added by 5 kilometers. If I press the climate control, the range is going to be added by say 20-30 kilometers or whatever. Cumulatively you can get up to 47-50 kilometers of extra range from this car by using this range mode, which is very similar to the low power mode of the iPhones. But what's interesting is there is something called as biometrics. I can store up to 7 to 8 biometric profiles of people in the car, and what happens is every time I tap my fingerprint, it is going to sense it, okay, this is a guy, and based on that my steering and seat, everything is going to be adjusted. Now one step ahead, Mercedes being Mercedes, what they've done is, say in the future if you get an OTA update, over the air update for this car in terms of a software update, or say for example in terms of the apps, or even improving the performance of the car, you can just use your biometrics to make the payment for the performance upgrade, which is super duper cool. If all that wasn't cool enough already, you get a proper storage space to store your important valuables like a purse or whatever it is. Another super cool thing is just touch this once gently and the sunroof ka jo cover hai blind opens, and touch it again for the second time, the glass of the sunroof opens. So the biggest welcoming change in the rear of the EQE is you do not get this floor hump here, because this is a born electric platform, and that's why it's more livable and usable in terms of accommodating 3 people. However, I recommend that कि 2 लोग खुश रहेंगे, third वाला बंदा थोड़ा सा उदास रहेगा. But having said that, you have 2 Type-C charging ports here, which is going to be very, very helpful. Climate control options, 4-zone climate control in this particular car. And then you have the rear center armrest with cup holders that neatly just come out with a proper phone holder here. However, the downside is, just like the GLC, the seats are very firm and they're pretty upright. So the Mercedes-Benz EQE is rated at 300 kW of power and 858 Nm of torque. But what's important is the surprising acceleration of 0 to 100 km per hour in just 4.9 seconds. The top speed is 210 km per hour. And talking about the dynamics of the car, the steering feedback is pretty good, because I have set it in the individual mode, where I can customize what I want, how I want the steering to be, how I want suspension to be, how I want the various dynamics of the car to be. So when you do that, when you go that extra mile, the steering feedback is pretty good. And at lower speeds, of course, the steering feedback is light, especially in the comfort mode. And talking about the other elements, you do not feel that the acceleration is super duper duper brisk or something, because if you're coming from the EQS AMG's benchmark, you might feel that this is now not the car that's going to literally throw you back on the seat, but trust me, it's going to be way better than most of the EVs that you see this side of 1 crore rupees. And of course, there are various driving modes in this EQE, especially the sport mode is where you're going to have a lot of fun when you're driving on this twisties like this in Gulmarg right here. So I haven't been a big fan of the brakes from Mercedes-Benz cars, especially if you know about the earlier GLC 43 AMGs and whatnot. But however, things are slightly friendlier in the EQE, and this is not the AMG variant, of course. The brake pedals have the accurate bite that you would want. There's no extra drama right there. Like for example, you can see that we're doing pretty 50-60 km/h speed, and I try to brake and the car is going to brake without any much drama. Thoda sa drama hai, but that's more than manageable. Talking about the visibility from the bonnet here, the visibility is decent, but that decent can be better when you actually use the electrically adjustable seats, which can ensure that you have complete view of the road ahead of you. However, the bonnet is not completely seen like some of the Mercedes-Benz cars we have seen earlier. Despite its weight, the EQE felt quite agile and nimble and flowed quite happily down the twisty roads of Gulmarg. It's not the most engaging car to drive, considering that the Big Daddy EQS AMG dethrones it. But there's very little body roll and it's quite responsive to directional changes, especially considering that this is an SUV and not a low-slung sedan. The key to EQ's easy handling is the low center of gravity, which is provided from the hefty battery. Ride quality is again amazing, just like we have seen in most of the Mercedes-Benz cars. The adaptive air suspension does a great job of isolating your comfort from bumps and bad surfaces, and this is going to be a big boon in Indian driving conditions. The car is equipped with 90 kWh battery and has a claimed range of 550 km. Summarizing the EQE in a nutshell, Mercedes-Benz has got most of the boxes damn right. Firstly, the car is tech loaded. It offers all the creature comforts and features that you want in a car today in India. And more importantly, it has good ground clearance, and that is going to be a big boon, because you can drive the car to places like this near Gulmarg. But however, Mercedes-Benz could have got a couple of low-hanging fruits, right? पहले तो मतलब the seat is very hard, just like the Mercedes-Benz GLC, which makes the long-distance comfort not so appealing. And second is the car could have looked a lot better. I feel that the design element from the front, of course, this is subjective to people, but I think Mercedes-Benz could have got it slightly more striking to appeal for the youth of 2023. That's about it, guys. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram. Take care and drive safe. Bye bye.